Welcome, dear listener. You're here now, resting in a quiet space, away from the noise of the day. Let your body grow heavy, your breathing slow. This is your timer gentle hour, set aside for unwinding, for learning without pressure, for letting your thoughts wander softly through the corridors of history. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely appreciate what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you are tuning from and what time it is for you. It is always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Imagine yourself walking through the shadowed stone streets of ancient Rome, not as a senator or soldier, but as an ordinary person, sandals crunching softly against uneven roads, the morning sun slowly warming the rooftops, the smell of bread rising from the communal oven on your street. Life moves with a rhythm here, predictable, repetitive, and beneath that rhythm, sometimes quite literally, flows something far less elegant than marble columns or grand forums, something you'd rather not step in. Tonight, we'll explore a side of Rome that's rarely celebrated, its plumbing. Yes, the pipes and toilets of the ancient world, the grime beneath the grandeur. You've likely heard that the Romans were brilliant engineers, and yes, they were. They built aqueducts, paved roads, and massive sewer systems that still draw admiration. But underneath that shiny marble surface was something far messier. Over the next 2 hours, we'll move through 4 quiet chapters of this world. We'll begin with the daily routines, the sights, smells, and habits of Roman sanitation, especially among everyday people. From shared sponges to public toilets, the rhythm of their lives was often dictated by something we now flush away without a thought. We'll then follow the story of the Cloaca Maximarome's mighty sewerand, the man whose vision built it. His story, buried in mud and myth, still flows beneath Rome to this day. Then we'll enter quieter waters, as archaeologists and medical historians trace a possible culprit for a silent scourge among Rome's elite, lead. Not a dagger or invader, but a hidden element within the very pipes that carried their water. And finally, we'll explore the divide, the clean and the filthy, between those who sipped spring water from aqueduct-fed fountains and those who washed their laundry in brown rivers downstream. There will be no drama tonight, no battles or shouts, just the rhythm of Roman life, described gently and in detail, to lull you into thought or sleep. So now, settle in, let your thoughts drift, back to a Rome most never imagine. Imagine yourself waking early in the city of Rome around the first hour of light. You rise from your straw-stuffed mattress, roll aside the linen cloth, and stretch your arms as the soft sounds of the street begin to stir. Distant hooves, a barking dog, a vendor's quiet hum as she arranges olives. Your home is modest, perhaps a single room in a crowded insula, one of the towering apartment buildings that line the busy districts. There's no bathroom here, there's no running water, just a ceramic pot beneath the bed, used sparingly overnight, and now needing emptying. You slip on your tunic, worn smooth at the sleeves, and step outside. The air carries the mixed scent of roasting flour, wet limestone, and something else, an earthier note, carried from the alleyway nearby where the night's refuse has begun to bake in the sun. It's time for the latrine. Roman public toilets were more social than sanitary. Walk a few minutes to the local forica, a public latrine. It's a low stone building, open at the front, offering some shade from the sun, but little privacy. Inside, there's a long marble or stone bench with circular holes evenly spaced each, one just large enough to sit over. Beneath the bench, a constant trickle of water flows, slowly carrying away waste into deeper channels. There are no walls, no partitions. You might nod to the woman sitting beside you, or the elderly man humming softly as he adjusts his robes. Conversation is not uncommon here. This is, after all, part of the rhythm of life. Beneath the seating, another water channel runs parallel, a little shallower. This one is not for waste, but for cleaning. You look for the tersoriyama sponge, attached to the end of a stick, communal, used and rinsed in the gently flowing stream between users. It's a moment that might make a modern stomach turn. But for the Roman citizen, this was ordinary, even expected. The sponge stick, washed and reused, was part of communal hygiene. The water might have been perfumed on rare occasions or salted to cleanse, but in truth the concept of microbial danger was entirely unknown. You clean, you rinse, and you leave. No soap, no antiseptic, only routine. Later in the day, when work allows or the heat grows oppressive, you'll return to water again, this time in the public baths. The thermi are vast and welcoming, a place not just for cleansing, but for gathering, for conversation, and sometimes for political whispering. Built by the state or funded by wealthy patrons, they're accessible to nearly everyone. You enter through a wide colonnade, sandals slapping lightly against the cool marble floor. A small fee may be paid more often than not, a copper coin or two, and then you disrobe in the apothecarium, placing your folded tunic in a niche in the wall, perhaps watched by a slave attendant if you're lucky. First, the tepidarium, where warm air wraps around you like a thick blanket. The stone is heated from below by hypocostan ingenious underfloor system channeling smoke and fire. The warmth loosens your muscles. Your breathing slows. Then the caldarium heavy with steam. You sweat. You ladle warm water over your shoulders. Some scrape their skin with a strigil, a curved metal blade removing dirt and oil. The scent here is faintly herbal from oils added to the steam. Finally, the frigidarium, cold, sharp, a plunge into cool water that tightens the skin and sends a shiver down your spine. Brief but bracing. You dry in the sunlit courtyard. Perhaps you'll buy a small pastry. Perhaps you'll speak softly with a friend. You feel clean but not sterile. This is a place of ritual, not modern sanitation. Back at your insula, water must be carried. If you're fortunate, you live near a public fountain, fed by one of Rome's many aqueducts. You walk there, jug in hand, and wait your turn. The water is often clear, cool, drawn from distant springs. But the line can be long, the sun strong. For the wealthy, a pipe may lead straight to the home-led or terracotic, carrying water with ease. But for most, it's a daily labor, a rhythm, a constant struggle. Bathing at home, if it occurs at all, is done with a bowl, a rag, and patience. Clothing, when soiled, is sent to the fuller the Roman laundromat. Here, men stomp clothing in large vats. The cleaning agent, human urine, collected in jars left on street corners. It is prized for its ammonia content, mixed with water and stomped with effort. It lifts oil and dirt from woolen togas and tunics. The air is thick with it, sharp, sour, and yet this is a trade considered essential. Once cleaned, clothes are stretched, dried, brushed with sulphur, and returned. They may not smell fresh, but they are visibly brighter. You wear the same tunic tomorrow, and the day after that, it's mended in places, patched, perhaps, by your own hand. The rhythm of your dress is like the rhythm of your street and familiar and humbly functional. As twilight deepens, you sit by the small oil lamp in your corner of the room. Somewhere below, a rat scurries through a gutter. In the alley, someone relieves themselves against the stones. Unbothered the sewers are far below if they reach this district at all dot. And yet you are clean. You are home. You've bathed. You've eaten. You've emptied your pot into the alley and rinsed it with the same water you fetched that morning. This was Rome, magnificent from a distance, but lived day to day in the details, in the trickle of water, the scrape of a strigil, the rhythm of daily routine. Now rest your thoughts here. The hum of Roman life will carry us into our next story. The builder of the mighty, Cloaca Maximund, the vision buried beneath the stones. Imagine yourself now not in a bustling Roman neighborhood, but at the edge of the Tiber River, long before marble temples stood in neat rows. The air smells of wet reeds and smoke. The land here is low and prone to floods. In the wet seasons, it becomes a marshy basin impossible to build on, a source of disease, thick with insects and rot. It is the 6th century BCE. Rome is still younger. Collection of hills, huts, and ambitions. The Forum, that great center of Roman life, is not yet a marketplace. It is a swamp, and the problem of drainage is as urgent as it is unsolved. Into this world steps a figure whose name will echo more faintly than generals or emperors, but whose legacy quite literally laid the groundwork for all that followed. Tarquinius Priscus, the 5th king of Rome. He is not a god, nor a gladiator, not even a native Roman. He is an Etruscan immigrant, and yet his ideas and the engineers he brings with him would dig a path for water and waste that still runs beneath the city more. Then 2,000 years later, this is the story of the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's great drain. Imagine, again, the Forum Valley before it was the heart of an empire. The Capitoline and Palatine hills rise on either side like tired shoulders. Between them, low-lying, damp earth filled with standing water, discarded refuse and human waste. It's not just unpleasant. It's dangerous. Mosquitoes breed here. Illness spreads. Structures sink into the mud. Religious rituals are disrupted by the rising floodwaters to settle the land and raise temples. The swamp must be conquered. But the Romans of this early period don't yet have concrete. They don't yet understand arches. They build with wood and earth, and yet they are determined. Tarquinius Priscus, though Roman in title, carries with him the knowledge of the Etruscans, a neighboring civilization known for its advanced urban planning, drainage systems, and engineering. He commands that a great canal be dug not to empty waste entirely away, but to direct it downward beneath the surface of the marsh, to create dry, buildable land above while the water is hidden and hurried away below. This effort was not glamorous. it was not fast. Slaves and laborers toiled in mud and filth, carving a path down the slope of the forum toward the river. Their tools were bronze picks, shovels, and sheer strength. It was a slow, steady rhythm. Dig, haul, lay stone, dot at first. The channel was open, a great ditch lined with cut stone. Over time, as Rome grew, it was gradually covered, forming a tunnel large enough for a man to stand in hunched, perhaps, but upright. Dot. This was the Cloaca Maxima, the great sewer. Let's not imagine steel or power tools, no scaffolding of iron, no pumps. Everything was done by hand, guided by eye and instinct. Stone was hauled from the hills. Blocks were placed with careful alignment. Water levels were checked using plumb lines and careful observation. Of flow direction, the shape of the tunnel arched eventually to prevent collapse was an innovation borrowed from the Etruscans. The arch distributed weight, allowing the sewer to endure the pressure of time and of the buildings that would one day sit above it. In dry seasons, the sewer sat almost still. In the wet, it became a surging channel carrying stormwater, household waste, and the runoff of a growing city toward the Tiber over time. Other smaller drains and tributaries fed into the Cloaca Maxima. Rome grew, and the sewer grew with it. Strangely, this great drain, so utilitarian, so dirty, took on sacred overtones. Some shrines were placed near its openings. The Romans believed in spirits that lived in places of water and transition. The sewer was a threshold between the city and the river, between clean and unclean. It was also functional. Officials called aediles oversaw its upkeep. Workers would enter the sewer to inspect blockages, flush it with diverted water, and repair collapsed walls. This was not a task for the proud or the vain. It was work done in darkness, among rats, and wrought, yet vital. As the Cloaca Maxima diverted water away, the land above slowly dried. The swamp became soil. The soil was packed, stones were laid, and eventually the Roman Forum was born, not just a marketplace, but the beating heart of Roman identity. Temples rose, columns pierced the sky, senators gave speeches where once mosquitoes buzzed, priests offered sacrifices in places once submerged beneath black mud. None of it would have been possible without drainage, without the sewer, without the long, quiet labor beneath. Tarquinius Priscus is remembered for more than this. He built walls, expanded Rome's influence, but his drainage project, often overlooked, may be the most lasting. The Cloaca Maxima still exists today, still carries water, still echoes faintly with the past. Tarquinius would be succeeded, overthrown, and eventually erased from favor as Rome shifted from monarchy to republic. But his legacy lies beneath the stones of the city, a tunnel, a quiet channel, a solution to filth. In a world where clean water meant survival and waste meant disease, the king who drained the swamp left a foundation as lasting as any throne. So, now, let the waters continue flowing gently beneath our feet. Let us leave the dark tunnel for a moment and emerge into the light of mystery, into a quieter question whispered by archaeologists and medical historians. Alike, could Rome's engineering genius have poisoned its own people? The aqueducts shimmered. In the sun, their arches rising like giants along the hillsides. Water ran cool and clear from distant springs, sometimes for dozens of miles, until it spilled into public fountains and private homes. Rome, the city of stone and spectacle, had achieved what many believed impossible plumbing on a massive scale, but buried within this marvel of water, delivery was a silent element, a soft, grey metal, easily shaped, remarkably durable, and dangerously misunderstood. Lead. As you walk now through a calm reconstruction of ancient Rome. Picture not the domes and statues, but the network below. Pipes stretching beneath temples, across gardens, and through atriums feeding fountains, latrines, bathhouses, and homes. Most of these pipes were made of lead plumbum in Latin. It was common, inexpensive, and versatile. Plumbers, or plumbri, even took their names from the material itself. Romans admired lead for its smooth interior. Water flowed through it easily. It didn't rust like iron or split like ceramic. And with a bit of skill, a pipe could be molded, sealed, and fitted without heat. It was, in every practical sense, the perfect plumbing solution for the largest city the world had ever known. But in choosing lead, the Romans may have set the stage for a subtle, generational decline, one not caused by war or fire, but by the daily act of pouring a glass of water. Archaeologists, working in the quiet of laboratories and museums, have turned to the smallest remains of Rome's past, for answers: bones, hair samples, soil layers from ancient cemeteries. What they've found is quietly disturbing. In the skeletons of Rome's elithos, who lived in villas, drank from private fountains, and bathed in their own bathhouses, levels of lead are markedly higher than those of the lower classes, especially slaves or rural citizens. Traces of lead accumulated over a lifetime settle into bone tissue, and though the levels are not always lethal, they are far higher than modern safety standards would allow. Lead affects the nervous system, the kidneys, and the reproductive system. Over time, it can cause fatigue, confusion, infertility, and in extreme cases, madness. But most dangerous light accumulates quietly, relentlessly. Lead's danger wasn't limited to water. In the kitchens of the wealthy, cooks sometimes used lead vessels for boiling fruit and making sauces. One such reduction, called soppa, was especially dangerous. It involved boiling grape juice down into a sweet syrup, often in lead-lined pots. The result, a syrup with a rich, sweet flavor intensified by a chemical reaction between the acidic fruit and the lead vessel. The Romans may not have known it, but they were producing a form of lead acetate, sweet-tasting compound with toxic consequences. This syrup was used to sweeten wine, preserve fruit, and flavor stews. It was prized in elite cuisine, but behind its taste was a hidden cost. Imagine a senator sipping wine at a dinner party, his cup filled from a vessel sweetened with sapa, the lead-heavy water pouring from bronze-spouted fountains. He looks well-fed, he laughs, he commands armies, and yet something begins to fray inside him. His joints ache, his mind dulls, his children fall ill, all without a single sword raised. A few Roman writers, in their calm prose, hinted at unease. Vitruvius, the famed architect, expressed concern about lead pipes, noting that they were less healthy than clay. He observed that workers exposed to lead often looked ill, pale, and sluggish. But his voice was a soft one. buried among many who praised the gleam and efficiency of lead plumbing. Most Romans believed in balance of humors, of diet, of moral behavior. The idea that unseen elements could poison the body without taste or warning was foreign. Disease, to them, was usually explained through divine displeasure, foul air, or imbalance, not toxic infrastructure. So, the pipes remained. It's important to pause here and breathe, to acknowledge that the story of lead in Rome is not a dramatic one. There is no single moment when pipes failed and the empire fell. No decree banning lead. No riots in the streets. Instead, it is a story of possibility, of long-term consequence, of systems so large and elegant that no one thought to question their effect. Could lead poisoning have weakened Rome's elite? Could it have dulled minds, reduced fertility, and quietly drained strength from the ruling class? Perhaps, but historians differ. Some point to far greater causes: economic strain, political infighting, foreign invasion, and, rightly so, empires do not fall from pipes alone. Yet, when we walk the quiet ruins of a once mighty city and run our fingers along the inner rim of a lead water pipe found buried beneath its stones, we're reminded of a different kind of collapse, not sudden, but seeping, not violent, but accumulating. Lead did not kill Rome, but perhaps, in its own way, it helped tire it out. The wealthy, the powerful, those who most enjoyed the fruits of Rome's engineering brilliance, may have also borne its cost in their very bones. It's a story told not through battles, but through residue, through mineral traces in an ancient tooth, through a pipe dug from the banks of the Tiber, still intact, still deadly. And now, as we turn away from the mystery, from the quiet poison whispered by history, we move into contrasting to the lives of those who never tasted sapper, never poured from bronze taps, never bathed in caldariums, those for whom the plumbing of Rome offered little more than the sound of rushing water in the distance. Let us now descend gently into our final chapter of the great divide between rich and poor, of clean fountains for the few and muddy rivers for the many. Certainly. Let's now enter the final segment of our journey, where we gently contrast the polished marble lives of Rome's elite with the muddier, rougher existence of the many who lived without fountains or flowing baths. Imagine yourself now on the edge of the Suburra district's densely packed, working-class neighborhood. The sun hangs low, the air is close, thick with the mingled aromas of hot bread, roasted fish, and the less pleasant smells of chamber. Pots emptied into alley drains. The street beneath your sandals is uneven and slippery, not from rain, but from daily life wastewater, from kitchens, spilled wine, discarded refuse. Somewhere nearby, a child laughs. A dog barks. A bucket clatters against stone. You live in a room 3 floors up. The stairway creaks. The walls are cracked. You fetch your water every day from a public fountain when it flows, and when it doesn't, you go to the river. Rome's water system was astonishing in its reach, but not in its equality. 11 aqueducts fed the city, their arches carrying spring water from miles away. They supplied baths, fountains, latrines, palaces, and public buildings. But how that water was distributed, who received it, and how much depended not on need, but on influence. The state owned the water, but elite households, temples, and bathhouses received the lion's share, channeled by legal grants and secret favors. A senator's villa could enjoy several streams of pressurized water. His garden might have ornamental fountains, his bath heated daily. By contrast, entire apartment blocks shared a single spout in the wall. If you were wealthy, water came to you. If not, you went to it. And when that wasn't, possibly you waited. Or did without. Picture a public fountain lacus or nymphium tucked into the corner of a sunlit square. Water trickles from a lion's head carved in stone, spilling into a trough worn smooth by use. You carry a clay jug. You wait in line. Around you, women chatter as they wash vegetables. A man fills buckets for his laundry shop. Children splash, their hands in the basin until a tired mother snaps at them to stop. This is not a place of leisure. It is a place of labor. The line is long, the flow is weak, and some days it dries entirely, diverted upstream for the emperor's games or a senator's banquet. You go home with half a jug and sore arms. And tomorrow you will come again. When water fails or never arrives, you make your way down to the Tiber. It is not a gentle river. It swells with storm runoff. It carries silt, sewage, animal remains, and worse, but it is constant. You stand at the edge, hem of your tunic lifted, and fill your bucket as quickly as you can. The banks are slippery, the current fast, and sometimes others have beaten you to it, laundering sheets, soaking hides, cleaning fish. Still, it's water. You use it to wash, to boil, to clean, and you know it may make you sick. But there is no alternative. Meanwhile, in the hills of the Palatine or Esquiline, the homes of the elite echo with a different rhythm. Water gurgles gently through inlaid pipes. Fountains bubble in shaded courtyards. Bronze taps, some shaped like animals, release water into polished basins at the turn of a valve. Slaves carry damp towels to guests reclining at feasts. A woman rinses her face in rose-scented water. Her husband soaks in a private bath, steam rising through marble columns. There is no walk, no waiting, no worry. The rhythm of their lives is one of convenience, quiet abundance, and unthinking flow. Even the public baths, the thermi, were divided in subtle ways. They were free or cheap to enter, yes, but some had private chambers. For the well-connected, better attendance, cleaner towels, fresher water. In smaller neighborhood baths, the floors were wet with old water, and the pools cloudy by midday. You might go once a week, twice if you could spare the time. The elite might go daily, greeted by name, their sandals carried by servants. Even in cleansing, the line between clean and unclean was marked not by soap but by social standing. In the poorer quarters, the effects of unequal plumbing were felt, not just in comfort, but in health. Chamber pots overflowed, gutters clogged, rats moved freely, illness spread. There were no toilets in most homes. Waste was collected in buckets, then tossed sometimes from windows, with a shouted warning to alleyways where it slowly trickled downhill. The Cloaca Maxima, that great sewer, ran beneath the city, but its benefits were not felt equally. In the hills, waste was swept away. In the flats, it lingered. When the floods came, and they often did, the river rose, and with it everything dumped into it. The Subura, low-lying and dense, became a soup of runoff and ruin. The rich could retreat uphill. The poor stayed in the floodplain. It is tempting to imagine that all Romans lived alike, sweating together in the baths and waiting in line at the fountains. But the truth is quieter, more divided. Plumbing was a privilege, water a symbol of rank. A household's water supply was a sign of status, visible, audible, even scented. To have constant flow was not just convenient, was elite. To lack it was to carry a daily burden, to scrub with river water, to patch leaks with wax, to wait and hope and boil. We remember Rome's aqueducts as miracles, and they were, but they served only a fraction of the population directly. For every flowing villa there were 100 insulated with leaky jars and cracked basins. For every columned bathhouse there were 10 back alleys slick with waste. For every noble who poured wine into silver goblets, there were children rinsing clay cups in cloudy river water, and so the plumbing of Rome was not just about pipes, it was about people, about who drank clean water and who carried it, who bathed in rose oil and who soaked their tunic in a muddy stream. In the end, Rome's water was a mirror reflecting its social order, its ambitions and its inequalities. The aqueducts still stand, proud against the sky. The fountains still burble, but below them, buried in silence, lie the forgotten hands that carried water uphill, the backs that bent, the feet that walked miles each day to bring a single jug home. And now, in this quiet moment, we can remember them, the rhythm of their lives, the constant struggle, the quiet dignity. We do not need drama to honor the lonely stillness, only listening. Now, let's bring our journey to its soft conclusion. Imagine yourself once more in ancient Rome, but now not as an observer, not as a peasant or senator, not even as a tourist in a museum of the past. Instead, imagine yourself simply present. Walking slowly through a city that breathes, a city that pulses with life both clean and unclean, a city that carries its greatness and its flaws beneath every marble column, every clatter of sandals, every murmur of flowing water. This is Rome, and tonight you've wandered its hidden spaces. You've heard the rhythm of its daily rituals, the shuffle to the latrine, the gentle scrape of a strigil in the bath, the clink of amphora against stone as water is gathered, the whisper of a sewer current beneath the floorboards of empire. You followed the forgotten builder, Tarquinius Priscus, down into the marshes of early Rome, his eyes fixed not on glory but on stability, on engineering, on making land dry enough for life to grow. You've stood beside laborers in ankle-deep sludge as they laid the foundation for centuries of history. Stone by stone, you've stepped into the silence of bones and lead, seen the invisible lines traced by time, and metal lines that led not to battles or coups, but to forgetfulness, to illness, to subtle decline. You've watched wine poured from leaded vessels, sweetened by slow poison, consumed with unknowing joy, and you've stood in two Romes, at once one of marble, scented oils, and heated baths, the other of mud brick, cracked clay, and waiting, always waiting. And through all of this above, beside, and beneath it flows water. Clean or tainted, slow or rushing, shared or hoarded, water has always been the quiet divider of societies, the still mirror of power, the soft whisper of structure. Even now, as you rest here, centuries later, you are surrounded by the unseen flow of plumbing, comforts so familiar they disappear into background noise. But in Rome, plumbing was not invisible. It was loud, physical, present in the daily labor of the poor and in the lavish stillness of the elite. It shaped cities, defined lives, determined health. It was not just about cleanliness, it was about class, and so, as we begin to drift gently toward the close of our journey, we can start to let these images settle. There's no need to hold them tightly. Let them come and go like water over stone. Imagine now that it is night. Rome is quieter, still warm, but with a cooling breeze that carries the faintest scent of olive wood, smoke, and river reeds. You walk softly along a street of worn stones. The lamps flicker above, fueled by oil, casting dancing shadows on the walls of narrow alleyways, behind some shutters, soft conversation, laughter, the occasional splash of leftover bathwater thrown from a window. You pass a fountain, still flowing, a trickle now, barely audible above the sounds of night insects. A clay cup rests nearby, forgotten. A toad sits at the base, motionless. The water continues, unconcerned. Far below your feet, the Cloaca Maxima still runs. That ancient tunnel, dark and forgotten, moves onward toward the river just as it did over 2,000 years ago, unchanged in its function. Still necessary. You pause, take a breath, you listen not for words, but for rhythm, the rhythm of their lives. It is slow, unhurried, it makes room for stillness, for discomfort, for repetition. A child somewhere cries, briefly, and is hushed. A cart rattles in the distance. A door creaks open, then closed. And still, the water moves, not as a rush, not as a roar, but as a slow, continuous thread, like memory, like history, like the passing of one day into the next. In your modern world, you turn a tap and expect a gift, hot, cold, filtered, flavored at your command. But imagine, just for a moment, the reverse. Imagine having to walk for every drop, to carry it, to boil it, to protect it, to barter for access, to share a sponge stick rinsed in cold communal water. This was not tragedy. This was normal. And in that normal, millions of lives unfolded. Lives not unlike your own, full of small triumphs, repeated tasks, private joys, and quiet fatigue. You see, plumbing was never just about pipes. It was about the labor of maintenance, about keeping things moving, about avoiding the moment when things stopped flowing, when the waste backed up, the water dried out, and the quiet comfort of ritual was disrupted. Even the emperor wreathed in purple, perfumed praise was vulnerable to disruption. If the aqueduct cracked or the fountain ran dry, water did not play favorites. It merely flowed where it was. Allowed, and yet access was never equal. Not then, not now. And so we return gently to where we began. To you, not in Rome, not in a bathhouse or tenement, but here now, resting in the quiet space of your choosing. This moment is your Cloaca Maxima, the channel through which stress flows out. This bed, your former foundation for the evening's rituals. And this breath, the beginning of another quiet aqueduct, drawing from deep wells inside you, sending calm forward, one thought at a time. You are part of history, too. You carry plumbing in your walls, in your cities, in your habits, and you carry echoes of Rome. In your language, in your structures, and though less obviously in the very way you move through public and private space. You may not think of lead pipes when turning on a shower, but somewhere a Roman once hoped for the same comfort. You may not think of sponge sticks in a latrine, but somewhere a Roman once laughed with a neighbor while using one. You may not think of water as struggle, but someone did, and many still. Do not let that awareness be gentle, not guilt, not sorrow, just recognition, just presence. Rome fell, not all at once, not in flames. It faded, it eroded, it slowed, its rhythms cracked, its fountains ceased to flow, its pipes silenced by time, roots, and rust, but the habits remained. We still wash, still gather, still rest, still build and repair and forget and rediscover. We still divide by access, by ease, by infrastructure, and yet we also continue, like the water, like the sewer, like the memory of a builder in the mud, drawing plans not for beauty but for function, like a mother carrying water uphill, whispering to her child about the next bath day, like a physician tasting the sweetness of supper, unaware of the lead hiding in his cup, like a worker scraping soap from stone beneath the shadow of a columned BATHHOUSE, like you, now, resting in darkness, breathing quietly, so let it all flow now. The names you've heard, the images you've formed, the soft rhythm of words, repeated like drops from a faucet. Steady and measured dot. Let it become background. Let it settle like sediment. You don't need to remember it all. That's not the point. History is not a quiz. It is a current. You step into it, you feel it pass. And then you step out, changed in small, quiet ways. The next time you wash your hands, you might think of lead. The next time you hear water running in pipes, you might think of the aqueduct. The next time you feel a moment of comfort, you might remember that comfort is engineered. It is planned, and not everyone has it. But now is for resting. Let the water run elsewhere. Let the sounds of Rome fall behind. If you are still awake, gently listening, then this final moment is for you. The past is not a place we visit to awaken urgency or stir emotions. Not tonight. The past, in this space, is a place to drift through dot, to observe dot, to feel the weight of clay jars, the scent of warm oil, the sound of water striking stone, to breathe with those who lived before, and then to breathe for yourself. The pipes, the drains, the fountains, the rivers, they are all silent now. So too can your thoughts fall quiet. Tonight we visited Rome, but more importantly, we remembered how something as simple, as mundane, as plumbing can reveal everything about a civilization, what it values, who it forgets, how it falls, and what it leaves behind. Not in gold, not in stories, but in stone and silence, and in the slow, steady rhythm of water, flowing forever. Good night.